Okay, let's talk about a few goofs or details, different things before we move to the next analysis of Rocky Horror Picture Show. So we're talking about a couple of goofs, and I want to back up to the car trip. I can't remember if we mentioned this is supposed to be in November, and they're listening to the news on the radio, which is Nixon resigning, and I believe that happened in July of that year. So is that time out of joint, which is what we've seen in the castle so far, time out of joint, or is that an error? The Nixon thing is probably a time out of warp, a time warp thing, because they're already under the influence or the control of Frank. You know, he's the one who put the whatever caused their flat tire. And Columbia literally says time meant nothing, never would again. And so time does not mean anything in this castle. And apparently, I haven't counted it. I need to go back and count it, but I've been researching and listening to others who said the clock strikes 10 times. And they said they were expecting the 12th, like the midnight hour. So it's 10 o'clock at night when Brad and Janet show up. And when you get into the time warp, as Magenta and Riff Raff are singing this before all the Transylvanians start dancing, I think I mentioned Magenta when she's standing up on the stair banister railing thing there. She's holding on to a dead bird with her right hand. All this weird stuff. But did you notice that Riff Raff has a donut and he rubs it on his arm and then he offers it to Brad? Just weird stuff. When Brad is being undressed, I've seen this movie, can't even tell you how many times. I've never noticed that his shirt is unbuttoned and then it's buttoned and then Magenta unbuttons it. So we got a little case of the magic unbuttoning shirt there. Watch that and see what you think. Here's a cool little detail. When they're all getting on the elevator to go up to the laboratory, Riff Raff has a bottle of wine. And before he shuts the door, he drops it and it crashes. If you watch real closely, you'll see a little piece of glass fly up. I mean, he actually dropped that bottle and shattered it right there. Wonder how many takes they had to do with that. When Rocky is born, so we get into the lab, and I'm going to go back and talk about some of the other stuff, but when we get into the lab and Frank's creation comes to life, his hands, shake, and they come up on the rim of that box he's in. If you look real closely, there's little scabs on his knuckles. How did that? He was just born. How did he already injure his knuckles? So is that something that should have been cleaned up? It's really funny. When they made this movie, I'm sure they didn't think about people, pausing and watching everything. Maybe we're making too much of it. It's just fun. It's just fun to go back and see all the little details here. Okay, when Eddie comes out of the freezer, and Eddie, of course, is Meatloaf. He's got the gash on his head because I'm out of my head. Oh, hurry, or I may be dead. The note that he left. He's out of his head. Half of his brain went to make Rocky. We find out later in the movie what Eddie's whole purpose for being there was. And I've seen it many times that he was a delivery driver, and I guess he got sucked in, much like Janet is being sucked in. The wall in the laboratory, in fact, even up where the Transylvanians are, there's a real quick shot. There's formulas, like mathematical formulas all over, and especially over where Riff Raff is, where Riff Raff is controlling, that thing he's winding up and he's pushing the buttons and all that. Behind him, there's a bunch of mathematical formulas here. But if you'll pause it, in one of the scenes, there's a grocery list: flour, sugar, eggs, and then above that it says laundry. then the next scene, all of that's gone away and it's just mathematical formulas. And then the next time you see that wall, if you stop it, the laundry list is back, the grocery list. So these are just fun little Easter eggs that they threw into this. Probably didn't think anybody would ever even catch them, because you have to, I wouldn't catch it if it weren't pausing it, And what I've been doing for this series is watching the scene without the sound, because I want to sing along with it and, all that. So if I take the sound out and I just watch the action, I notice more things than if I'm, getting sucked into it again, just like the characters are being sucked into it. Okay, up on the top with the Transylvanians. I did hear a little tidbit about this movie that I did not know. It was originally intended to be filmed in black and white. Remember Young Frankenstein was filmed in black and white to give it that old, eerie feel? Well, apparently Rocky Horror Picture Show was supposed to be filmed in black and white. And the Sue Blaine, I guess, was over costumes. She didn't really pay attention to the Transylvanian costumes because they were going to be in black and white. But when they decided to go color, said it was her big regret not to go back and redo those, because they're all in little different nuances and all that, which I think adds to it. It gives each one a little different personality. But anyway, that's just a little tidbit there. Up on the ramp where the Transylvanians are, there's one statue. I think it's the one on the left. And there's a Transylvanian with his arm looped through the arm of the statue while he's watching the action below. The statue has painted fingernails, all red. When Eddie comes out of the freezer on his motorcycle, which, think about that for a minute. They cut out part of his brain and threw him in the freezer with his motorcycle, wearing his helmet and his saxophone too. Just put the whole lot in the freezer. But anyway, he comes out, and I've watched a couple of interviews with the cast, and they said that was wax blocks with a little bit of ice, but mostly wax blocks that he comes barreling out of. And he drives his motorcycle up on the ramp. Now, Meatloaf, this was a military grade motorcycle. He was not comfortable with it. He crashed it the first time he tried to drive it. And so he's not driving that motorcycle. It's a stunt man that you see go up around the ramp. When you see Meatloaf up close with just the windshield and his handlebars, and all that, he's in a wheelchair. They fitted a wheelchair with a windshield and handlebars. And so, he looks like he could be on a motorcycle. Am I ruining it for you? I want to know the wig that they have Meatloaf wearing. Is that supposed to be a bad Elvis wig? Look at it. It's got the chops, pork chop sideburns. It's got the pompadour in the front. It kind of looks like a bad Elvis wig. Tell me what you think about that. Okay, that motorcycle, the stuntman did drive it up on the ramp, but it did fall. And I'm not clear if it fell with the stuntman on it or it fell, but it pinned a crew member down below. And fortunately, it was just minor injuries. I think they got a leg burn and, had to wrap up their leg for a while or something. So there was a little accident with that motorcycle. Okay, when he runs the motorcycle up to over the ramp, and it's kind of mayhem, it's chaos, there's a Transylvanian up by that left statue. And if you just watch him, because you're automatically drawn to the motorcycle, but watch that Transylvanian, he purposely knocks the head off of that statue. Why? I mean, that's just a little detail that I don't know why it's in there. It didn't really add anything to it, but he sure did knock that head off. When we get after Meatloaf is killed and Frank starts singing to Rocky again, he runs his finger down Rocky's torso when he says "Stee-hee-hee-hee-him." When you get to Rocky's navel, I've always thought that navel looked weird. I just thought he had a weird looking navel. He doesn't have a navel at all. He wasn't born a woman. And so they plugged his navel. I think they could do a better job of it nowadays, because there's still a little circle there, but that's why it looks so strange. It's been plugged. Okay, and then I'm going to give you one more little flaw to look for when Frank gets on that pommel horse. I think it's called a pommel horse. It's that gymnast thing that coincidentally has an odd shape. Does anybody else notice that shape? But when he gets on it and he's moving on it and everything, when he finally jumps off and he pushes it over behind the elevator, watch behind Rocky. Rocky is standing in front of the elevator and Rocky's doing his little dance, while Frank is on this gym horse. When Frank pushes the gym horse, you look behind Rocky through the grates of the elevator. You're going to see some magic hands pulling that pommel horse out of the way. So we got a little crew member got in the shot there. So those are just some of the little Easter eggs and goofs and things that I want you to go look for if you have access to the movie. And if you don't, it's 20 bucks on YouTube. Just go spend 20 bucks and have a good time. So I will see you on the next one, and we'll talk about that lab and the storyline. Bye.